It's about that time. Everybody is sequestered. Everybody is ready. Everybody is quarantined.
Gather around, but not too closely.
Yeah, keep your social distance, because this is episode 106 of the We Are One, You Are Two PlayStation podcast. I am your host, Rob Fenzo, joined by, he's now in quarantine, Matt Rhodes.
Hey-o.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Maybe a little bit of sore throat, but hopefully that's not Corona.
I don't think that's one of the symptoms. It's more a fever and coughing, and
I think it's
which I've had a cough for 3 weeks, so I doubt that's anything.
I feel like it's probably because I fell asleep on the couch, so my throat's just dry from that. But yeah, how are you doing, Robert?
Yeah,
after you cough, directly after you cough.
I know. I'm surviving. I'm a little surprised that I'm not surprised because I read the news a lot lately. I'm not surprised at how crazy stuff is getting out there.
Yeah.
I keep seeing memes pop up now, which is, and I'm not making light of anything, but I do keep seeing memes popping up where it says everyone else during quarantine and self isolation and social spacing, and shows them like bored or like going insane, and then it says. And then there's gamers, and it's always like some guy jumping up and down, or his eyes are lit up like they're on fire, or like super pumped because any excuse to stay indoors for a gamer is like a perfect excuse.
Yeah.
And so where everybody else is like, I'm so bored. I need to get out of this house. This is horrible. I want to go places, but I don't want to get sick. A gamer's like, no, I'm good. I'll stay here. It's fine. I'll practice social spacing with my video games, right? So... kind of crazy. I don't want to talk too much about it, but we are going to talk a little bit about that today because it does tie in with, I think, what's going to happen for gaming the rest of the year. Not necessarily in terms of releases for something like Doom or whatever that's coming out next week, but just thinking about longer term, what happens if studios start shutting down and all this other stuff. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We're also going to talk a little bit about today, what happens when you just don't feel like gaming and you're in that gaming slump. We're going to debut our little conversational topic that I hope to have every week about what you should be playing in 5 hours or less. And we'll have a fancy title for that in the future. And so we'll just cover a couple of things today. And then I have just a couple of short news stories that tie in with what we're going to talk about too. And so we're going to have a little bit of a hodgepodge of everything today. Not necessarily a news-heavy story week again, but more topic-oriented as well. And so I do want to remind people, if you like what you hear, though, you can head over to our Podbean and like us over there. You can head over to patreon.com/weareoneyouare2 and join us over there, along with our couple of patrons. You can also find us on your favorite podcasting service where you can like, share, subscribe, and please, 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 please rate us as well. Matt, I guess we should talk about, though, before we get into this heavy, heavy episode about all these fine topics, I guess we should talk about what we've actually been playing to show that we are taking advantage of being indoors.
Yeah. Well, I have a slightly longer list this week, so that's exciting. I'll go first. I'm guessing I just jumped right into it, but
yeah, I mean, you might as well.
Obviously Rocket League, Fortnite, but I tried out a game of the Modern Warfare Warzone. Is that right? Is that the name?
Oh,
the new battle royale, if you will. I
was going to get into that.
Yeah, I did like the practice mode of that, and then I played like one game and got like wrecked. So that was fun. I also have been playing. I finished Dragon, which was pretty sweet. And then on the Switch, I was playing some games because I got some games that were super cheap. One's called Saboteur, which was interesting. I only played
Nickel, right?
Yeah, Nickel, I believe. Yeah, I only played a couple minutes of it, and I was just like, it was kind of hard to figure out. For whatever reason, I couldn't figure out the buttons. I felt like I was dying very quickly. So there was that. And then what is the other one called? The New Age and This Guy, I believe. It's like a bomb kind of puzzle game. It's pretty cool. And then another one called The Old Man's Journey, which is really cool. So and I think that's pretty much it. Trying to think if there's anything mixed in there on PlayStation or not. But yeah, what have you been playing, Robert?
Well, and we'll talk a little bit more, I think, about your experience with Dragon here in a little bit. I, of course, told listeners last week that I needed to finish Greedfall because otherwise I'm going to feel like I want to stick a barrel down my throat and pull the trigger because I just feel like that game is just dragging me down.
Yeah.
Right? I, of course, did not touch Greedfall at all this week. And so I feel like I let the ball slip there. So I might owe myself a punch in the face. But I did play some more of the Hunt Showdown. That's, again, been kind of my multiplayer go-to. And so I'm still really enjoying that and still really digging that. I'm going to continue to play that and mess around with that. And then I also worked a little bit on that Ganbar Super Strikers. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Okay.
So I messed around with that a bit, and I really still really dig that game. It's just the matches take so long that on my Vita that I don't really. I try to play that in my spare time. I only get maybe one match, and so I plan on platinuming that, but it's taking a lot longer than I thought it would. I'm still working on Blood Roots, which is a short Hotline Miami action game. We'll talk about that as well. I mentioned it last week, but I want to talk about that more in your 5 hour less segment here. I'm almost finished with Bayonetta. And so I want to rant, but I also have a complaint that I will file formally when we talk about when you don't feel like playing games anymore.
Okay.
And because that will be one of the reasons that I don't feel like playing games anymore. And we'll talk about why.
Okay.
And then last but not least, Neo 2 arrived in the mail yesterday. And I was super pumped because, well, you remember the first Neo. You played some of the beta or the alpha or whatever.
I played the, of both, yes.
Yeah. And so Neo 2, I kind of went blind into it because I only played a little bit of the one trial that they had. I purposely kind of avoided that this time around because I knew what I was getting into. I didn't need to play little snippets of it over and over again before I actually play the game for real. And I died on the second enemy because the second enemy is insanely difficult to the point where I realized that you're not meant to fight him. You're supposed to skip him because he is basically probably like 10 levels above you. And so I think Neo 2 was kind of like saying, look, this is going to be the tone for the game, that you're going to have to work your rear off and probably come back to certain areas. So I like it. I'm a little worried that it's going to be a bit of a grind. And lately I'm just not into grindy games. So it might be a problem. Yeah. But we'll see. We'll see. So I've been playing a little bit of, I guess that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different games this week. Probably spent the most time in Hunt Showdown because I'm just trying to get my hunter up to level 99. I'm only like level 32. So once you hit 100, you get prestige, and then it resets your character, resets all your weapons, everything. So I don't know if I'll do that, but we'll see. I don't know if I'll even get there. Yeah.
Oh, I also forgot that I also played that Sonic Forces, which is like one of the PlayStation 3 games. Yeah. Which was pretty cool. I enjoyed it.
I do want to dive into that. I have to download it still. I did play Ori and the Blind Forest on my Switch, and I did play Luigi's Mansion on my Switch as well.
Nice.
But I'm running into the same problem that you constantly have. We'll just talk about that here in a moment. But when we talk about when we don't feel like playing and gaming.
Yeah, of course.
Anything else, though, before we move on then?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, Matt, before we talk about some topics, I just want to hit a couple of interesting pieces of news. And they're mostly sports related, actually, which is kind of funny because there's no sports going on anymore right now. The first one being that 2K Sports issued EA Sports its kind of like heads up because it apparently signed a deal with the NFL to make a brand new football game. And so the last time an NFL 2K game was made was NFL 2K5, and it was launched in 1999. And that actually caused Madden to an EA to sign an exclusivity arrangement with the NFL so that no one could make it. Well, they still have that, but 2K has signed a deal to say that they could make more arcadey-like games. And so I am hoping we get another NFL Blitz type game.
Oh my gosh, I love that game. It's so much fun. Yes, I would 100% buy that.
So the first title will apparently launch in 2021, and it is a fun, approachable, and social experience to football. It is not a simulation game.
Nice.
And so I am excited because I loved Blitz, and I remember playing that a lot. So let's hope they give us something similar to that.
Oh, yeah. That'd be amazing.
The second piece of news is more rumor than anything, and that is that Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5, which was a complete disaster, may have not been the last we saw of Tony Hawk. Apparently, in a deleted post, a band called the Death Set posted to Facebook that it licensed 5 of its songs for an upcoming Tony Hawk 2020 game. Quote, "You'll be hearing this soon," they said. So now, I don't know if that means a new entry or a reboot or what, but it does sound like we could get a Tony Hawk game before the year is out.
That's pretty cool.
Heck yeah, I love those games as well. So I will totally take one of those.
Yeah, I was just watching a list of like most disappointing games or most games that got delayed or games that got like delayed or should have been delayed longer or something like that because they ended up to be crap. And the number one was Tony Hawk. And they said that it's like an online all the time game and the servers are down, so you can't even play it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that did leave a sour taste in people's mouths. So I'm kind of excited to see where things wind up.
Absolutely.
The only other thing I wanted to point out before we move into our topics, because good old Reggie from Nintendo ties into our topics, is I actually saw this over on Nintendo Life, and they pulled out a graph. And I have the link there in the document if you want to look at a graph that shows all Nintendo Switch game meta scores over the past 3 years. And then they compared it to PlayStation Metacritic scores over the last all time. So you're talking about 1,408 games, I believe, versus 1,744 games. And what I found very fascinating about both of these is that the mean or average, right? Mean is average, yes. Of this, the Metacritic score was a 70 on Nintendo Switch. And then it was a 70.38. And then if you actually go over to PlayStation 4, it's also a 70.99. And the median for both was a 72.
Wow.
And so I thought that was really interesting because we always boast about how PlayStation has these incredible high scoring titles. And so does Switch tend to brag about that with their first party. Both companies have really great first party games, right? But I think what it is that you have a huge influx of indie and third party games that bring those scores down. And so I would be, no, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I just would be more interested in seeing what the overall score quality is or the average is when you take Nintendo exclusives and PlayStation exclusives and average them together.
Yeah, I think that would be a better side by side, if you will.
Yes, because let's face it, a third party of The Witcher might get a 90 on PS4. I don't remember what the Witcher score actually was. And then it might get like an 84 on Nintendo Switch. And so not only does that drag the Nintendo Switch down because it's lower, because it runs more poorly on the Switch, but it also, you might see the same thing with a PC port to PlayStation 4 where it scores poorly because of that, right?
Right, yeah.
And so, and I looked at some of the high-scoring games for best reviewed Switch games, and of course, Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey are at the top, but then some of these are third-party, or indie games like Undertale at a 93, Celeste at a 92, Bayonetta 2 at a 92. And then on the other end of that kind of stuff, Room in the Sky at a 17, Tennis, a game called Tennis at a 28, back in 1995, which I remember reading off the PlayStation blog at a 33. And so you have games like that are reducing that score. And so I just wanted to highlight that for people. If you're interested, you can go to Nintendo Life and find that graph that shows all the Nintendo Switch game Metascores over the 3 years, and it shows PlayStation 4. Just interesting data that the average score is a 70 for both.
Yeah.
Just something to check out. Kind of neat. I'm always interested in numbers like that. But that's really it. There was other news this week about cancellations and all kinds of stuff, but we'll talk about that. What I really want to do is just talk a little bit about our topips today. And
I mean, you're not going to mention the one I sent you?
Did you send me one?
I sent you like 3 today, actually.
Oh, in text message. Yes, you did.
Yeah.
You talking about the? I did not see
the Naughty Dog one was most interesting to me.
Yeah, the Naughty Dog one is one of those big ones that's kind of causing some controversy, and I don't want to necessarily jump on either side of that. It's not the first time we've heard about crunch in the industry, but I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, right?
Yes, correct.
And so I saw that guy on Twitter. I saw his posts, and he used to work for Naughty Dog, and he basically said that the crunch time there has been absurd for The Last of Us Part 2, that it is for every game of theirs because of the quality of their games and the time required and the deadlines. And then he also threw out the accusation that basically said that the only reason they succeed is because Sony is able to fund their delays rather than their skills. And so it takes longer for them to develop the games, and Sony's okay with that and throws that extra money at them because they have to crunch to get it done anyway, because they don't necessarily they can't maintain or retain quality creators. Now, I don't know if that article went on to say anything, but I saw Neil Druckmann post over the last 3 days. He didn't directly address it, but he has been tweeting out about how much he loves the animation team and how hard they work and how talented they are. And so even though he's not directly addressing it, he's directly addressing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's talking up his team when someone else is trying to berate them.
Yes. Now, the crunch thing is not unusual. We've been hearing about this for the last couple of years with different studios. And I kind of fall on both sides of it. I respect that your time should be respected and that you don't want to have to work overtime sometimes for long periods of stretches of time if you don't have to, and that delays should be. And I agree to an extent with that you should always take the time you need to create content. But we also live in a culture where some of the best creators and I'm not talking about just video games, but the best talent out there, the content creators that we listen to, that we watch, that we absorb, spend an enormous amount of hours on their content. And so maybe if you get into the game, and I hate to say this and sound awful, but if you get into the gaming industry knowing that there's going to be crunch time and then you complain about it afterwards, you probably shouldn't have gotten into the game industry.
Yeah.
I teach. I know that sometimes my weeknights and my weekends are going to be taken from me. For example, will be this weekend because North Carolina just closed down all schools today. And so I've got to scramble now for e-learning plans for my school. I know my Sunday and my Monday are taken from me more so than they probably will normally be. But if I'm unhappy with teaching, I need to get out of it, right? If I'm going to complain about losing my nights and my weekends sometimes to that kind of stuff, I need to get out of that profession and find something else. And so I think anybody who willingly enters game design and knows that there's crunch should not be complaining about crunch. Now, if he had no idea, that's different. But if he had no idea, I don't know why he stuck around for so long. And I get that people have bills to pay. But man, there are so many other studios that would hire you in an instant just because your name is attached to Naughty Dog that you could have gone somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, it's not that I don't have sympathy. I respect and understand this. I just don't think, I don't know. Am I off base here with this?
I mean, I don't think so, but maybe. I mean, obviously other people are going to have their own opinions, right?
Yes. And you're welcome to you're entitled to your opinion. I just think I can't enter. You do sales.
Correct.
And you know that there are going to be times when you probably have to crunch harder than others for sales. Is that not true?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course.
But you chose that. You know what you're getting yourself into. You didn't walk in there and be like, well, what? Sales? I have to work. I might have to work. I had no idea. And you didn't say, oh, no, thanks. The job's not for me. You took it. Right?
Yes, exactly.
So again, I respect it. I understand the complaint, but I also don't think airing it on Twitter is the best place for it. Take that up with Naughty Dog privately.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I just live in a different world. I don't know. That could be it too.
Yeah.
Seriously, it could be.
A world where you don't shit talk your employer. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah. Now, if they screw me over, that's different. I can understand that a little bit. But it sounds like he willingly left the company.
Yeah, and he also said that he had never experienced that many issues with crunch time. He himself had never worked more than like 60 hours in a week.
Yeah. So again, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I have no idea what the hell is going on here. All right. The other story, I guess, that you mentioned, you're talking about, that you wanted me to mention, is it the NVIDIA?
I mean, you can mention all three. I was just going to touch lightly on the 2K. I mean, obviously, we don't play basketball games, but
you can go ahead and talk about that.
It's funny because the NBA canceled their or paused their season, and it has affected the actual game of NBA 2K because of it goes off. There is a game mode that goes off of the actual NBA schedule, current NBA schedule. So it's kind of like broke that mode a little bit because the games aren't updating because they're not being played.
It's interesting you mentioned that because I actually had not come across that news story this week. And what's, I guess, fascinating to me about that, Matt, is that basically tells me that we've become so dependent on these type of these sports games being connected to the real world for opportunities to feel like we're there every week. Yeah. That we've actually now risked or sacrificed that realism for something like that, right?
Right, yeah, exactly.
And so, I mean, this is an exceptional situation, but
obviously,
it makes me think about what would happen if the NHL or NFL or something went on strike halfway through the season. What would they do with the games then, too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I actually really appreciate that about sports games, that they do that now, but I guess in a way that can break a game if you're playing along with the season with your team.
Right, yeah. It can be a selling point. You can kind of jump into the game and see if you as a player can change the outcome a little bit.
Exactly. You wanted to mention the other last story that we had here?
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was fascinating that there's I don't know if it's an app or what exactly it is, but it's called Folding at Home, and it has new projects on the study for the coronavirus. And basically what it is it enables you to lend your computing power for your PC to the projects to help either help researchers get the computing power they need to either research things about the virus or try to come up with a vaccine. But one of the things that I think the most interesting thing to me was the fact that it's been around for years, and it was available on the PlayStation 3.
Yes, I remember that being available on the PlayStation 3.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. So, yeah, I mean, so as gamers, you can go, I guess, download this app or whatever it is, or this program, and lend your gaming power when you're not using it to the research of for the virus, so they can help fight it.
Yeah. So that's a nice way to help out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, when possible.
Yeah, it doesn't cost you anything.
Small amount.
Yeah, exactly. Just use
some computing power and electricity.
Yeah, just using your computing power when you're not using it.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So that's going to wrap it up for just we took a little longer than I expected, but just a couple of pieces of news this week that were worth noting, right? That help kind of highlight what's going on around us.
Yeah.
Now, what I thought we could spend a little bit of time talking about is what happens when we don't feel like gaming, because we are a PlayStation podcast. We love talking about games every week. You and I play games together when we can throughout the week or during the weekend.
Correct.
But you and I have both experienced this recently where we have free time. And actually, I think it's appropriate because we're coming up on a lot of free time. And so for me, I'm thinking, okay, I've got to do my job remotely from home, but I'm also going to cut back on travel time. I am still going to maybe have time where my lunch break, where I normally couldn't, where I can sit down and play for an hour or whatever. But what happens? And so immediately you go, oh, yes, my backlog, or Neo 2 just came out. Doom Eternal's out next week. I can really sink my teeth into these. And then you fire up your PlayStation or your Switch and you're like, meh, not today.
Yeah.
And you and I wanted to talk about our experience with that because you've had that recently and I've had that as well. So did you want to talk about that a little bit recently? How you felt that way or experienced that?
Yeah, honestly, for me, it was just, I don't know. Sometimes I'll play games for a couple hours on end and then I'm like, I just get bored. I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, what am I benefiting from this? Am I really enjoying this, or am I just grinding away at this game because I've spent so much money on it that if I don't do it, then am I really getting my money's worth? So yeah, there's this weird kind of malaise recently that I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I'll play a game for like, and maybe I've had this for longer than I thought, but like, you know, we've talked about a little bit before about how I like to dive headfirst into games a lot, and I'll play nothing but that for a while and then just not finish it. So maybe it's kind of similar to that, but it's kind of become more of an all games thing lately, where I'm just kind of like, should I be doing something better with my time? And then ultimately I stop playing, but then I ultimately don't do anything better with my time. I just like switch to like Netflix or or like Hulu or something. You know what I mean? But
so you're still wasting time. You're wasting it in a differently wasteful, productive way.
Yeah, just a slightly different wasteful way. But I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like lately it's been this weird experience where I'm just, not that I'm not into gaming, but I'm just kind of complacent with the games I have now. And maybe that has to do with the fact that nothing like really big, new has come out lately. Maybe that's part of it, but I don't know. What about you? I mean,
yeah, you know, I found recently that and I think this will be true. I have plenty of opportunities lately where I have a couple of hours instead of just like a half hour here, an hour there. And I sit down and I play and I get through about 15 minutes. I'm like, I'll switch games. And then I switch and I get through about 15 minutes of that one. I'm like, oh no, I think I'll switch again. And then I switch to a third game. This is often why I have that list that I do at the end of the week. And I'll play that for a half hour and I go, well, it's been a total of about an hour and I've played 3 games and nothing speaks to me.
Yeah.
But then I think about, well, maybe I'll go watch them on Netflix. I'm like, I don't want to do that either. And then I'm like, well, I could go outside and cut the lawn. I don't want to do and I think it's a general apathy thing.
Right.
But I do find myself, though, more interested sometimes in reading about stuff or watching other stuff, as you mentioned. And I think it comes down to that balance, right? Every gamer loves that ideal of, oh man, I usually get a half hour. I'm off today. That's a full 8 hours of gaming I can get in.
Right.
But then you get 2 to 3 hours into it and you realize that there's something special about gaming, the same way that there's something special about anything we do leisure for time, where even if we have that amount of time, we maybe don't really want to spend it the way we think we do.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like everything else. It's done in moderation, right? I think the fact that I only have maybe an hour a night, or, you know, maybe I get 2 hours in one day and then a half hour the next. Maybe there is something special about gaming then, right? Maybe that's why I want to play so badly. But then once I get that extended period of time, I'm like, well, I'm going to go make a sandwich and sit outside. Like, you know, it's
right.
It's one of those things where maybe it's because we don't get that time that often. I don't know. But there are still nights when I get that hour and I'm like, I had an hour earlier this week and I was like, well, it's 8:30. I usually don't call it a night till like 9:30. I'm going to bed. Like, there was no like debate about it.
Right.
And so I think there is something about moderation that's to be said of all of this. And I think too that sometimes my time is precious, even more so it's going to be in the upcoming months. And the games I've been playing recently have caused me to feel a bit grindy. Bayonetta I have died in multiple times in a level or on a boss.
Yeah.
And after about 15 minutes, I'm like, do I really want to spend the next hour doing this? I could do something so much more productive.
Right.
And I think that's part of it too. And so Bayonetta actually has me upset because there's a glitch on the PS4 for you have to complete chapters 1 through 4, I believe. And then it's like 5 through 7 and then 8 through 11. Well, I'm on chapter 13. I was looking back at my trophies and I'm supposed to get a trophy for chapters 8 through 11 and I never got it.
Ooh.
And so I searched. And it's actually a common problem on the PS4 where from here on out, from chapters 8 through 16, you don't get any of the trophies for completing the chapters until you go back and start the game on hard on a second playthrough and you play up through chapter 5.
That's weird.
it is very weird and very frustrating that we have had trophies for a decade,
And they're still
over a
glitching
decade,
out.
and they still don't know how to properly do this when they go through certification. And I want to know who's checking this stuff. And that was actually demotivating in itself, because it was like,
Right.
and I don't need the trophies for the enjoyment, but it was also one of those things where it's like, well, I kind of already was struggling to finish the game just because I was dying so many times. And now I've kind of cut off like another reward system, right?
Right.
And the story is not hooking me enough to necessarily maintain my interest either. So it's like a perfect storm, I guess.
Yeah.
And so, but and then, there's other games that I used to love. Hotline Miami. And I think I was at a different point in life, because now if I played Hotline Miami, I think I'd want to punch myself in the throat for dying over and over again for 20 minutes on the same level.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out the pattern that I need to best optimize my way through that level.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I think I'm hitting that adult phase where I need games on normal or easy that allow me to breeze through a game and enjoy the story and enjoy the game.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm a little scared about Neo 2 right now.
Right.
Because my time is precious. And I look at the Messenger that's sitting there. And I look at Sorrento VR that I'd like to get back to. Or I look at Blasphemous that I still would like to finish. Or Days Gone. And it's like, or Greedfall. Good Lord, if I ever finish that one. Or Outer Worlds. And it's like, these are games I would like to get through before games really start coming out that I care about. Like Doom. Or Neo 2, which obviously I've started.
Right.
Or Final Fantasy VII or Last of Us, right?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I almost have like the opposite approach. Instead of grinding through it, I'm like, I'm wasting my time. I'll go watch something. I'll do something where I can consume. If I'm going to waste time, right, my leisure time by doing something like that, even a book reading, right, I'll at least consume the pages. I'm not going to get stuck on a page.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get stuck on a scene of a movie. I'm not going to get stuck on a scene of a TV show. And so, if I was 18, 20, 25 still, but at mid-30s, I don't know if I have time for that now. And so you're right. I think for me, that's the pinpoint of my problem is moderation and also frustration.
Exactly.
And I know that's why you don't play certain types of games, right? The frustration.
Yeah. I just don't have time for From Software type games anymore. For whatever reason, I just don't want to bang my head against the wall like that. For whatever reason, I think maybe because of the universe it was in, Star Wars was okay, but it was also not as Souls-like. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's one of those things where I don't want to just keep grinding like that just to get to the story. It's frustrating.
Yeah. And so we have a lot of time coming up. A lot of people do, because you're working from home now. I'm working from home now. Our audio engineer, Dave, is probably going to be working from home soon. A lot of people are. And so we'll have extra hours of the day because of traveling and such. But the question is, will we feel like gaming? Right. And I know I've seen a lot of memes, like I said, that are celebrating it.
Yeah.
But what happens when you don't feel like gaming? And the thing is, you can't force yourself. You don't want to push through it.
Oh, right.
Because then you're going to want to game even less. And so I think that's really important. If you don't feel like gaming,
do something
else.
I
know that, yeah, absolutely. Come back to it. Yeah. And that's the toughest part, because we're all going to look at this time that this virus has kind of forced us to have at home and think of it as a gamer's dream. But when we don't feel like it, don't do it, because you're going to regret it.
Right.
So speaking of time and don't feel like gaming, one of our patrons suggested a really great idea for what to talk about, games that we should talk about that they'd like to hear us talk about every week that you can play in 5 hours or less.
Yeah.
Basically a sitting.
Yeah.
To digest.
Sure.
And so I thought maybe you could just touch on if there's any games you can think of. I've got a couple that come to mind for me. One is that Blood Roots that I've been playing quite a bit of. I feel like you can play in 5 hours or less if you're good. And if you're not, you could probably still get through it and see the majority of it in 5 hours or less and feel like you accomplished something.
Yeah.
That would be my first suggestion.
For me, obviously, Drogon, however you pronounce it.
Right.
Was really good. And it's something you could definitely do in 5 hours. It was interesting to see, like, because you had mentioned to me that, some of the reviews were saying that it was cliche. And to a certain extent, yes, but it did have kind of an ending where I was just like, wait, what? But the other game that I will say Well, I'll give you two. Like the one that was really good, the New Age and this guy is kind of a mindless puzzle game that you can kind of play for a few hours and not worry about it. Like I'm sure there might be puzzles intricate through, playing through the whole game might take you more than 5 hours, maybe. I'm not sure yet. But, that's a game that you can kind of pick up and put down because it's a puzzle game and it's not necessarily like something that's super connected as far as story. But the one that I really started playing today and was really enjoyed, and I think this is probably something that's going to be, I can play in less than 5 hours, is going to be The Old Man's Journey. It's a really cool game on Switch, and I would imagine it's an indie title, so I would be shocked if it wasn't on other platforms like Steam or like PS4 or something like that. But you guide your old man through this. Basically, you're taking him on a walk down memory lane, basically, and you can shapeshift the environment. It has this like layered art style to it. And you have to shapeshift the environment to connect those layers so he can actually like traverse through the level.
Okay.
You like drag like the hills up and down so they like line up properly so he can like jump to like the, it's a game that the art style messes with the perception, right? So, you're kind of like jumping back away from like the camera, let's say, and then kind of have to work your way back towards it in a different way, just by manipulating the landscape itself. Okay. Yeah, it's really kind of cool. Really, it's really kind of relaxing. The music to it kind of reminds me of, oh crap, I don't know the developer, but whoever did Journey and like Flower. Okay. It reminds me of like that kind of like indie type like vibe where it's just like super relaxing, just trying to, I don't think there's any dialogue, at least I haven't run into any yet, but you're kind of piecing together this story of his life basically. Like he gets a letter and then he sets out on this journey. So we'll see where this journey takes him, but these stops along the way kind of remind him of his past life or, of the life that he's had. So it's interesting to see this kind of, walk down memory lane with this old guy. So that would definitely be one of my recommendations. And when I got it, I think it was like either a nickel or a dime or something like that.
There you go. So I'm going to throw out two more real quick. And one I've talked about both these in the podcast before, but looking back in my backlog, ones that I would actually fire up again because I know they're short. Next Machina, which is made by Housemarque, nice. who is like the king of twin stick shooters. Yeah. And that was one of my favorite games, twin stick shooting games ever, but also of those years. I think it came out in 2017, 2018. I highly recommend that. And then the other one that I would say would take you 5 hours or less, I'm pretty sure is Minute, which you've heard me talk about before, which is where you die every minute. Yeah. And I got the platinum for that. And that is such a great game. And that is so fun and so stupid. Devolver Digital, I think, published it. I'm not sure who the developer is, but both of those are brilliant games. And so those would be my recommendations to actually, if you want to go back a while and check out older games like that. Bloodroots being the most recent one. That I feel is really good. And so those are probably, that's a nice little collection to start with, right? Between what you talked about and what I talked about, that's a nice little, you can get through these pretty quickly, probably play a couple of them a week if you have, or you just play an hour a day, you can get through, that's enough to last you the next 4 or 5 weeks, right? If you play during the week. So next week, we'll be back with a couple more suggestions because I have plenty, but I didn't want to overwhelm people. But Next Machina, Minute, Bloodroots are my 3 for this week that I would say check out. You can get them all pretty cheap too. I think all of them are under $20. Nice, yeah. And so I don't know. You said that one was a nickel.
I think I believe at least when I got it on Switch, I believe it was like a dime or something like that. Yeah, so well worth a dime.
Fair enough. Awesome, cool. Yeah. So. Just to kind of wrap things up before we move into the blog, the last thing I wanted to touch on is where do you think we'll be the next few months from now? Because
also, can I toot our horn a little bit?
Sure.
We did a great job of predicting this E3 debacle. Obviously, yes, we don't know if it's going to kill E3, but clearly they have canceled it, and everyone's moving to a digital thing. So there is the increased likelihood that it could kill E3, right?
Right.
So I just want to toot our own horns of how timely that was for us. Before we even knew that E3 was canceled, we were talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we kind of predicted that it probably would be.
Yeah.
And we also kind of called that this could be the end of E3 if it is.
Exactly.
And so I think we did a pretty awesome job of that.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I do want to point out to people that are listening, the few that listen to us, we are outsiders.
Right.
And so we don't have any industry knowledge.
No, we do not. Well, we have industry knowledge, but we don't have we don't have inside knowledge.
Right. Yeah. We just So to be clear, we are just ardent fans who are capable of reading the tea leaves, right, and kind of reading between the lines of what's happening. And so that's why I wanted to talk about actually where we're going to be the next few months, because the Europe has become the epicenter of the coronavirus, and China no longer is, but they still are having a couple cases here and there a day, not badly. A lot of people have recovered, but then it's also spreading through the United States at the moment, which is why we had this crazy lockdown that's going on everywhere. And Italy is a mess, Iran's a mess, etc., or Iran. I guess I want to know where we're going to be in a few months, because I think the few things I want to talk about is, one, this past week, I don't know if you saw, but Mr. Nintendo himself, Reggie, right, Fils-Aimé, he used to be the Nintendo of America president, and now he's actually going to be helping retailer GameStop get back on track as a member of the corporate board. Try to help them out. And so he's not working full time, but he's going to be part of their board to help, bring them back to, I guess, their former glory.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with that is it's a really bad time to be GameStop, not just for what it is, but because of, I think that what's happening here with the virus will probably impact their bottom line.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it's going to, and I guess my question is, does GameStop make it through the end of 2020 if the consoles get delayed?
Oof.
Because I also think
that's hard to say.
That's something else I want to touch on. I think we're moving closer and closer. And I think this is why Sony has been silent. And I know a lot of people are frustrated with them. I think we're moving towards there not being a PlayStation 5 in October, November. I think we're moving towards a 2021 release date.
Oof. That's tough.
Am I wrong? I mean, or what are your thoughts on that, I guess?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I would imagine that you could be right, especially if they can't. I mean, because, a lot of these products are put together in China, right? Mm-hmm. Or overseas like that. So if there's an issue with that and they can't do that, obviously they would have to delay. But I honestly don't know. I don't know if they'll, not to say that they would take that risk. I think that's certainly why why there's been a delay in us finding out what's going on as far as like the announcement and the design of it, right? Mm-hmm. So because of that, because we still don't know anything, I think it's going to just remain us not knowing anything. And then, when August comes around, or, when E3 digitally happens, people are going to be like, oh, well, maybe it's not going to release this.
You mean June?
Yeah. Well, yeah, sorry. I originally said August, but then I jumped back to E3 because I guess that's probably, that information is going to happen sooner, obviously. But E3 will happen, and, I would imagine Sony will have another state of play by then, and they might just be like, you know what, we have to push this back.
I think they've been quiet because they're not sure what's going to happen, and they don't want to come out and say, coming October 2020, and then have to come back out again a month later and say, due to coronavirus, we have pushed back the release of our console to, spring of 2021, which I think is the earliest that we'll see it if it gets delayed. But I do think in the next couple of months, that's a very real possibility. I think that will also hurt GameStop indirectly or directly, maybe. I don't, because I think that their software sales are not going to be enough to hold them over.
I can understand that. But at the same time, with kids being off and having extra time to game, maybe they see an uptick in sales right now.
Yeah, they might. It depends on how well people listen to that social spacing thing. And I know that doesn't qualify necessarily for every location, but I do foresee that. Well, and okay, so here, I'll help you out with that. February, there wasn't a whole lot released. And there was NPD did release today that software sales were down. And hardware and software sales were down 29% over last year.
Okay.
And so March doesn't really have has a couple games coming out, but not a whole lot. And so there is that very real possibility that we see another slow month, I think,
right,
of gaming.
Yeah.
And if that's true, I think particularly with any delays, I think you're going to start to see some real issues.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see exactly, right? But because, I mean, if you look at Italy, the surge in players on Fortnite has grown.
Oh, has it? Well, they have nothing else to do over there.
Ridiculously, yeah, right? So the kids are off from school, and then that's kind of what's going to start now here in America. So it'll be interesting to see those games surge and, maybe even, modern warfare, like the Warzone comes, takes off because of the timing. It was just released. It's a new battle royale game, and kids are now going to have 2 weeks off to, make sure they're not getting sick.
Right. Yeah, it'll be an interesting thing. I think GameStop is in a very precarious position.
Yeah.
And I think I'll be very fascinated to see where they wind up. And I think PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X are in a very precarious position. And we haven't seen this yet, but I will be curious if any of these studios wind up telling their employees not to come into the office, if we'll see more game delays.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously an interesting thought. But at the same time, I feel like to a certain extent, coding and maybe I'm being naive, but I feel like that's something they could also do from home.
Yeah, I don't know.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm being naive, but as far as delays, maybe it doesn't happen because they're able to continue to work from home. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know enough about the industry, but I'd be really curious to see if it winds up costing them in that regard too.
Right.
So we haven't seen anything yet, and I'd be very curious. We're in uncharted territory, and oddly enough, the one time, and this ties back into our conversation, the one time we have more time than ever to game, or we'll have opportunities to game, maybe the time where we dig into those backlogs, because there may not be a whole lot of opportunities for new stuff to be produced and marketed and pushed out because of these conferences and crazy stuff going on, right?
Right.
And so I also wonder, not only just GameStop in general, but I wonder if because people will just want to stay home and not risk going out, if you will see an uptick in digital sales, which means that we will be ushering in the digital age of gaming even faster.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
Right?
But yeah, it is kind of up in the air still.
Yeah. I don't know, Matt. It's fascinating stuff. I'm curious to see what happens. I'm excited to, hear about new consoles, but I also respect that we may not for a while. And I'm just, I'm very, from a sociological standpoint, very fascinated because I'm very perturbed at everything that's going on, but also very hopeful that everything turns out all right for everybody and us. But at the same time, also very interested to see how this impacts the industry that we love so much.
Exactly.
We shall see.
That we shall.
All right. Shall we move on?
Yeah, sure.
Let's go ahead and take care of the blog and the drop this week in what we like to call See You Soon.
Sweet. See you soon.
All right, Matt. I did not count up how many games there are this week, but it looks like a boatload.
I did, Robert. 17. So not
17. That is a boatload.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely more than the 9 we had last week, but...
Yeah, I'm going to count anything over 10 as a boatload. Anything over 12. Anything over 12 is a boatload.
Okay, all right, fair enough. All right,
So
first.
we're in a boat.
We're in a boat. We are.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll let you start. I'll get off my boat.
We're going to toss these things overboard as we list them.
That's right.
So we have more room in the boat for ourselves.
Well,
all right.
Well, if we really like them, they stay in the boat.
Well, that's true.
So we'll decide in the boat, out the boat after each one of these this week.
Okay, that's fine.
A new segment within a segment.
That's
Dave.
right.
Get music for that.
Yeah. All right, up first, before Dave quits on us. Chop is dish. Chop is dish. That's correct. I pronounced that correctly. Chop is dish tells the story of one cook who was robbed by some mystical creatures. So I almost said mythical. Mystical creatures. Some strange monsters had suddenly appeared in his forest and stole his master chef's chunk of beef. Our cook needed this meat for his ultimate dish, and now it's gone. He has to act quickly and dangerously. What? By pursuing the thieves and recovering his grand ingredient. Why does he have to act dangerously?
I don't know.
Out of the boat.
Out of the boat for me, too. Because I'm bothered by some strange monsters had suddenly appeared.
Yeah.
Should be have suddenly appeared, my friends. It did not happen in the past tense. It is happening now. All right. Doom 64 is out digital March 20th, separate from Doom Eternal. Celebrate Doom's 25th anniversary with the release of Doom 64, originally released in 1997, and now available for the first time on PlayStation consoles. I cannot wait. As you battle through more than 30 action-packed levels, be on the lookout for enhanced weapons and secrets to help put an end to the demonic threat. That's in the boat for me.
In the boat for sure. All right, up next. Sorry you didn't get to read it, Robert.
That's all right. I've read Doom 64.
Right. Doom Eternal. PS4 digital retail out March 20th. Hell's armies have invaded Earth. Become the Slayer in an epic single-player campaign to stop the final destruction of humanity. Also includes Battle Mode, a new 2v1 multiplayer experience in which a fully armed Doomslayer faces off against two player-controlled demons in a best-of-5 round match of intense first-person combat. Ooh, that sounds pretty cool, actually.
It does. I'm excited, too, because you can actually customize your Doomslayer this time around.
Ooh, fun. In the boat.
I don't know if you saw that. In the boat for sure. All right, Epic Word Search Collection, PS4, PS Vita, digital cross-buy. Epic Word search puzzles are enormous. There are more than 1,500 words hidden in each massive scrollable grid. This collection contains Epic Food Word Search, Epic Journeys Word Search, Epic Animals Word Search, and Epic Sports Word Search. And it's out of the boat.
I'm going to keep it in the boat. I like word search.
All right. Fair enough. It'll be on the cusp of the boat, on the ledge.
That's right. Yeah, on the ledge of the boat. All right. Up next, we have Explosive Jake. PS4, PS Vita out March 18th. And it's digital. Explosive Jake is a classic arcade game. Not only humans are afraid of dark and deep dungeons. Our hero is a little skeleton with an unhealthy love of explosions, trying to escape from dangerous castle dungeons. Help him avoid enemies and explode his way out. I'm going to say keep it in the boat.
I'm going to keep it in the boat, too. Yeah. It's in the boat.
Yeah.
Kamiko.
Ooh.
Kamiko is a game styled around Japanese Shinto beliefs. Fight as priestesses and battle demons. Fight as priestesses. Yeah, priestesses.
Yeah, priestesses.
And battle against demons while solving puzzles to make your way through the stages. Look no further if you're looking for an arcade action game with a twist.
Out of the boat.
Out of the boat. Yep.
All right. La Mulana 1. PS4 digital retail. Experience a classic tale of exploration, puzzle solving, and deadly action. Take control of archaeologist Lameza Kosugi and navigate through puzzles, traps, and deadly guardians to claim the secret treasure of life. Will you succeed in unraveling the secrets of La Mulana, or will you fall victim to the dangers that surround you? It looks like an Indiana Jones ripoff. Out of the boat.
Yep, out of the boat for me, which means La Mulana 2 is also coming. Experience classic tale of exploration, puzzle solving, and deadly action. Renowned archaeologist Lameza Kasugi has gone missing, and his only daughter, Lamusa, can find him. Enter Egg Lana, an upside-down version of the legendary ruins of La Mulana. What will you find at the end of your journey? Triumph or defeat? I'll tell you where you find yourself. Out of the boat.
MLB The Show 20. PS4 digital. MLB The Show is what baseball dreams are made of. With new ways to play, greater customization, and more exciting new paths to rake in rewards. This is the biggest and best show ever. The Show 20 is your ticket to play America's pastime your way. Well, you're going to need the game because they delayed the season for baseball as well. We'll keep it in the boat so we can play some baseball.
That's right. We need some baseball, so we got to keep it in the boat.
That's right.
All right. Neverlast. Stop the demon invasion by destroying 3 runic portals before it's too late in this fast-action first-person fantasy game. As a reckless hero from a bygone era, and your castle is under siege from the dark forces. What? As a reckless hero from a bygone era, and your castle is under siege from the dark forces. All right, that was the full sentence. Destroy all 3 runic portals that have been summoned to your manor before it's too late.
Out of the boat.
Out of the boat. Work on your grammar.
Right. Out of the boat. All right. Well, here we go. More baseball. RBI Baseball 20 PS4 Digital. Legends start here. Unleash greatness with your MLB crew in RBI Baseball 20. RBI redefines arcade baseball action with massive advancements, including brand new batting, pitching, and base running controls, all new broadcast-style pitching camera, major visual improvements, and more authenticity. Man, I do like RBI because I do like the more arcade style.
Me too.
As opposed to our simulation, but we already have a baseball game, so out of the boat.
Oh, man. I'll tell you what. I think there's plenty of room in this boat for more than one, so I'm going to keep her in the boat.
Oh, okay. Double baseball. Okay. Go ahead.
Double the balls. All right. Not to be outdone. Rainbows, toilets, and unicorns.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Rainbows, toilets, and unicorns is a fast-paced, shoot-'em-up bullet hell where you'll have to progress through waves of enemies and beat 15 bosses. There are 5 different and completely crazy worlds. On your trip into the crazy world of unicorns, you can vent your unjustified frustration and face all your most unfounded fears.
Oh, 100% keep in the boat. That looks
in the boat.
ridiculous.
Absolutely.
All right, up next, Red Death, PS4 Digital. Blast through waves of arcane enemies and take down monstrous bosses as you defend the Earth against an unknown calamity. As a prologue to Project Starship, vertical bullet hell shoot 'em up, Red Death sets a collision course against a full-scale invasion bent on eradicating humanity, presented in nostalgic 4-tone style. Out of the boat.
Yeah, I really like vertical bullet hell shoot 'em ups, but I think I've got enough, so out of the boat.
Yeah.
Round Guard. Castle Spring Bottom is under attack. It's up to the Round Guard to save the king and recover his gold. Fling your hero into the face of danger and bounce off hordes of dangerously cute monsters to reach the bottom of the dungeon. With only one life, you need to learn how to navigate hazards, make strategic choices, and master your hero's skills if you hope to defeat the final boss. Now, before we decide, I have to look this one up. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not going to look it up now. I'm pretty sure this is the one that's like Peggle meets like a dungeon crawler.
What?
Yeah. And so I'm going to keep this one in the boat for now.
I mean, if that's the case, I would definitely keep it in the boat. I love Peggle.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to mention that to you.
Yeah, let me see. Okay.
Because they don't mention that, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
Or at least the screenshots that look like Peggle.
It is, yeah. So they should mention that. That would be like a top selling point there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I can definitely keep that in the boat. All right, up next, we got Thunderpaw. PS4, PS Vita digital cross-buy. Thunderpaw, Thunder was out playing with his ball in the fields when he suddenly heard a loud explosion near his house. He rushed home, worried about his parents, only to find no one was there. Just a single letter that said his parents had been kidnapped. It's up to Thunder to rescue them. This has got a weird art style going on. I mean, I like the art style, but at the same time, it's weird that like the dog is like human and he has a gun, but he's also like trying to collect a crystal or hold a crystal. I don't know. Out of the boat for me.
Out of the boat, yeah. It's a little too anthropomorphic for me.
Yeah. That's the word. That's the word I was looking for, but I was like, I don't remember that word. So,
all right. Not to be outdone. TT Isle of Man, Ride on the Edge 2.
Ooh.
Digital. Racing across over 60-kilometer long ultra technical track at breakneck speeds, requiring realistic riding skills. That is the challenge that awaits in TT2. Lots of new features lie ahead. Open world, reworked physics, classic motorbikes, and more. Fine-tune your motorbike, upgrade its performance, and monitor its data in real time to stay competitive. Sorry, TT, you're out of the boat.
Yeah, out of the boat for me, too. Well, that's it for Pit. Oh, my gosh. We made it through.
Yeah, we did.
Hey-o.
All right. Well, we thank you for stopping by. We thank you for hanging out with us.
Yeah.
Matt, I appreciate you spending some time with me this week to do so.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
I'm glad we could socially connect while keeping ourselves socially distant.
Yeah, that's right. And just remember, kids, wash your hands and then rate, like, and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast service.
Absolutely.
But wash your hands first.
But yeah, wash your hands first. You dirty kids.
Dirty kids. Thanks for stopping by. And until next time, continue to game on.
Game on. Sit down, you're rocking the boat. We're in a boat with a bunch of games. It's outro music. We're in a boat with a bunch of games. It's outro music. Sit down, sit down, sit down, sit down. You're going to knock the boat over games.
That should be our music for that right there. Good times.